when you're on the streets, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you, I'll take your part.
We were involved in a case where they gave out leaflets that accused my wife, because she was the longer term member than I was, and they accused my wife of being a hate campaigner. A general term, really. A hate campaigner, a religious bigot. Because we were Christians, they were the Church of Scientology. They claimed to be a religion, and yet they've been refused status as a religious organisation in the UK on 2 occasions. So they're not recognised in the UK, but they are recognised in a couple of countries in the world only. They made a leaflet with my wife accusing her of a religious bigotry, and they left the leaflet and they put it all around our neighbours, and they gave it out to people openly in the street of our town, where we were well known, and we'd lived many years. And of course that's kind of intimidatory in our own way. It's very hard to deal with that, because a lot of people, it's embarrassing. You have to deal with the embarrassment of it all, and people then, where there's smoke, there's fire, and people think maybe we are a bit, in any case, we had a solicitor at the time, and the solicitor suggested that we may have a case of libel, and we said we're not really interested, but she made an appointment with a barrister in London, and the barrister said, yes, you have a very good case of libel. We said, we're not interested, we can't afford libel. It's the only legal action, I think, or one of the very few legal actions in England that doesn't get legally aided. So you have to find the money yourself, which can run into hundreds of thousands, because the Scientology as a litigant will drag a legal case out for many, many years in the High Court, which would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. So, but then after the day we'd seen the barrister and we said, no, we're not really interested, the barrister called back the next day and said, I'll offer you my services pro bono if you're interested. So we said that to our solicitor, and then that kind of made the solicitor offer pro bono services too. So it developed from there, really. And so off we went, and we brought a case against them because of the leaflet, which was a small case, really. And then in their retaliation, they countersued us, they counterclaimed a case that was 3 times or 4 times the size of ours, and accused us of things we'd not done. So that went on, and then we got sued by a front group of their organisation as well. So we had a countersuit, a suit, a countersuit, and I think there was one other. We had 3 suits in the end in the High Court against our one. And in the long term, we won, and they had to apologise to us in open court and pay us substantial damages. Yeah, it was for us, and it was a long time. 6 years. It was a long time, and at certain stages they intimidated our original solicitor so much that she pleaded in tears on the phone with me to come off the record, because they were following her around and her children going to school. They were pinching her rubbish like they were doing to us. They would steal our rubbish and photograph us and video us, and generally harass us to intimidate us away from the case. And so our solicitor came off record. We operated for 2 years as a litigant in person in the High Court. Not a thing you'd recommend anybody to do. It's very hard, very intimidatory. We learnt about the libel laws very quickly. There are 2 books you read. We became very au fait with those laws, and so we operated as best we can as a litigant in person. And then we were taken up by one of the members that were demonstrating in the street, was also a member of Liberty, which is a well-known organisation in London that take on cases of freedom of speech and issues like that. And he suggested that Liberty take on the case. Would we put their details and send them to the Liberty organisation? And said, well, okay, well, we'd need any help we could get. And they sent a letter back saying, you've got a very good case, however, you're too big for us. We can't handle it. Which was which was very awkward for us because we were just my wife and I, and they couldn't handle it. But they put it to a panel which is called the legal panel. There's about 8 large London lawyers, probably the largest in the UK, that meet or look at cases of, usually cases of freedom of speech and freedom issues, and they look at them once a year. And they looked, and we were taken on by the second largest law firm in the world, in fact. So we went from litigants in person to, instead of going into the outer hearings that Scientology insisted on calling to discuss points of law, we went in on ourselves with just my wife and I, and we got terribly abused and beaten in there because they'd employ some of the finest barristers and QCs that you could find. And we used to walk in on our own. Well, when we were taken over by this law firm, we then walked in the first week with, I think, 2 solicitors, 1 QC, and a host of legal secretaries and legal paralegals. So we filled the room up the first time we went back, and we won the case.
Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay